Hello everyone, it's Lindsay and I am so excited about today's video. It is going to be a very long video, so grab your favorite drink. I've got mine supporting my local Christian coffee shop that I love so dearly. So grab your favorite drink, grab a snack, maybe go ahead and stream YouTube over on your TV, get in your jammies, get comfy, let's hang out, let's take a look at the new Illustrating Bible from Illustrated Faith DaySpring. I have seen so many of you asking questions and anticipating this, and I have had it for about a week. Just heads up, it was sent to me by DaySpring for review. I was saving up my money and planned on buying it ahead of time, so I'm so thankful that they sent it to me for review, so I can kind of walk you guys through it and show you some of the things I've discovered along the way. And so they did not tell me to say anything specific or tell me that I couldn't say anything specific, so I'm going to talk about the pros, the cons, all the ins and outs. I have spent the last week just really working with this Bible. I have several entries in here that I will show you. I did not film process videos for those because I just wanted to focus on working in this Bible and really have an understanding of how it functions and things that it's good for and not good for and all that goodness. So videos will be coming out very soon as I continue to work through this Bible, so stay tuned for that. But let's kind of hit some of the key features and points of this Bible. So first off, this Bible is going to retail for $99 over at DaySpring. Pre-sale does begin today, so I will have everything linked down below, every product mentioned, all kinds of things linked down below for you guys. You can get in on that pre-sale. Those are affiliate links, just heads up. If you do order as part of the pre-sale through my affiliate link, I do still get credit for that in case you have questions about that. And thank you so much for supporting me through those links right off the bat. I want to thank you guys for that. And I will have a corresponding blog post with today's video, very in-depth with photos, link grids, all kinds of things over there. So definitely check out the blog post if you don't usually follow up with my blogs. That's going to be a good one as a resource to come back to for this Bible. So let's kind of hit some of the key things. So again, it is $99, which is a higher price point. I know that that's going to be kind of out of the range of, for some of you, but I really think that this Bible is going to be a good investment and kind of treat it as a legacy Bible. So a Bible that you can work in with the intention of passing down generation after generation. And so Sean and Noel just really worked on a lot of the details in this Bible. And so before I even open the Bible, I kind of want to show you the box that this Bible comes in, just to kind of show you how much thought was put into it. So it's this kind of blush colored box with the foiling on the front, but it is a very hefty, sturdy box. It kind of reminds me of the ones that you can buy from scrapbooking stores to store supplies in, but even thicker and nicer than that. And that is so that you have a place to store this Bible for the long term. And so what you'll notice in here is the Bible usually sits in here, but once you start adding tabs to the top, if you added books of the Bible tabs to the side, it wouldn't fit in this box any longer. But they went ahead and added these pieces that you can remove as your Bible grows, and so now even as your Bible gets chunky, it can still live in this box and keep it protected so that it will last a very long time. So I love that they, even just giving you, a flexible space to put the Bible in. The packaging also includes this little product usage guide, which just has some tips and ideas and things like that for working through a journaling Bible, not necessarily just unique to this Bible, but just a journaling Bible in general. So I love that they've included that, especially if you're going to be giving this Bible as a gift, let's say for Christmas. I think that this would be a beautiful gift for a baby shower and giving somebody something to document the first year of their child's life, or maybe several years of photos and prayers for their child. I know that Jessica Robin, I'll link her Instagram down below. She is doing a Bible for her kiddos and writing prayers to her kiddos in a Bible, and I think that's so beautiful. So this would be an amazing baby shower gift, Christmas gift, and like I said, it comes in that really nice box. So if you want to turn off this camera and turn off this video and not watch the entire video, because it is going to be a long one, right off the bat, I love this Bible. So if you just want to know my feelings about it, I love it. But let's kind of dig in. So you can see it is a square shaped Bible, and all of the dimensions and all that goodness will be over on my blog. I know you guys are coming here just to kind of see a Bible journaler's viewpoint of actually working in the Bible. So square shape, it is large. So let me grab my regular journaling Bible so you can kind of see in comparison what that looks like. So this is my Crossway ESV single column journaling Bible. A lot of us journal out of a Crossway journaling Bible, just so you can kind of get a feel. It's about, I don't know, a little more than an inch taller, definitely wider. This Bible is not petite, that's for sure. It is a hefty Bible. And so some of you are going to be diehard lovers of this Bible and will tote it to church every Sunday, and you are amazing. I'm not going to be that person. This is going to be a Bible that lives in my office and just is meant to be a place for me to document at home in, not necessarily studying and taking to church and Sunday school and stuff like that. Shauna Noel did show in a recent video of hers that this Bible does fit in the tote bags that you can get from DaySpring. I'll have those linked down below. So it does fit in there if you do want to travel with it. So don't feel like it's only meant to be a stay-at-home Bible, but it is pretty big. Part of why it's so big is because of the coil. So this is something you'll see that is very different for a journaling Bible. And this Bible was created for Bible art journalers. You know, a lot of journaling Bibles are kind of created for note-taking and studying, and we just happen to color in it. This one is specifically for Bible journaling. So there are some features that kind of help with that, and that would be the coil binding. So that allows the Bible to lay perfectly flat when you're journaling in it. It also allows it to expand. So as you add, even if you're not adding chunky elements, even if you're just adding paint and things like that, eventually this Bible will kind of poof up, and so this gives it some room. And you can see it's just this really pretty rose gold faux leather. It is soft bound. This Bible has me all in rose gold fever. I've been buying, I don't even like paper clips, and I went out and bought rose gold paper clips to work in here and have for photos and things. It's silly, but I'm all about the rose gold. I'm loving the copper foiling on the front, and then the coil is in copper. So if you saw, a lot of us took our 100 Days of Bible Promises book and had it coil bound, and I loved having a coil bound book. I know it's not for everybody, and it can be a little clunky or a little bit different to work in, but I actually am loving having the coil binding, and I'll show you some tricks in upcoming videos for using that. Going into it here, the inside cover is this really pretty faux suede. Shauna was trying to describe the color, and I told her it is peacock feathers distress ink. So if you've worked with any of the distress ink products or distress products from Tim Holtz, this to me is peacock feathers. It's this really deep, beautiful kind of teal color, and then it's got this embossed in the beginning God created. So I love that. And then in the back as well, it's that same faux suede and embossed, "The grace of the Lord Jesus be with everyone, amen." So I love just those little sentiments that they have in there, and then just plain and embossed on the back there. You'll see on the inside here that the pages are white. So that is something I get asked all the time from people, are asking for journaling Bibles with white pages. And there are some out there, but what I have found is that a lot of the white paged journaling Bibles kind of ruin it by adding even darker colored journaling lines in the margin. And so I kind of always passed on having the white pages. And so you'll see here, I'm going to try to edit this video so that the colors are as true as possible. Just keep in mind it's kind of hard with filming, but you can see this journaling Bible I usually work in is a cream colored page. And the reason for that is these Bibles were created to be read and studied in, and so the black on cream is a little bit easier on your eyes when you're reading and studying. But like I said, this is created for the intention of Bible art journaling, and so a lot of times I would apply white gesso or white paint into this Bible just because it's a little bit easier to create, or colors kind of show truer on true white. And so these pages are white. These pages are 75% thicker than regular journaling Bible pages, and they are even thicker than a regular Bible. So they are thicker. And of course you're thinking, okay, 75%, what does that mean? I will show you all the products that I've tested and what that looks like. But the paper is definitely thicker. You can just feel it as you're working with the Bible. I would encourage you to check out your local Bible bookstores and see if they are also carrying this Bible, so you can kind of go in and touch it if that's something that you're wondering before you order it. The pages do behave differently, not in a bad way or a better way. I mean, it's better in that things don't bleed, but they just behave differently than the pages in my other journaling Bible, and so I've just kind of had to learn along the way. This Bible is in the Christian Standard Bible Translation. That's the CSV translation. I know a lot of people have asked about other translations. At this time, DaySpring has no intentions of bringing out any other translations, but of course that could change, in the future as things kind of go along. I know we all kind of have our translation preferences, and that's okay. I personally study from a variety of translations. The She Reads Truth Bible is the CSV translation, and I like reading the CSB. I think it's comfortable. I always study from other translations as well. This isn't the only Bible I read from, and so I'm okay with it being the CSB translation. I'm not going to go into all the translation, things in this video. If you have questions about translations, this does include an explanation for the CSB and what it is. And you can also Google different translations and kind of see what the differences are. But as of right now, it will only be in the CSB translation. And when you have to, I know people are going to be kind of upset about that. You have to think about it from a business mindset. It's just not realistic as a business to put out a Bible, a brand new style of Bible in every single translation and not knowing how the public's going to receive the Bible. And so you kind of just have to go and evolve through the business process. And so this is starting out with the CSB translation. Now, as far as just a Bible standpoint, of course, it's got things that you see in every Bible pretty much. You've got a list of books of the Bible in order that they appear. It is Old Testament and New Testament, so it is a complete Bible. And then you also have a list in alphabetical order. And one thing you'll see as I'm flipping through this Bible, the coil binding. Now, Shauna was really intentional about the design of the Bible and the construction of it, and it was designed so that the pages aren't likely to tear out or fall out. I know that's been a concern from some people with a coil binding. I have not had any issues. Like I said, I've only had it a week, but to kind of prolong the life of this Bible, I'm just careful when I flip through this Bible. So if I was to flip to the very back of the Bible, what I do is I usually just take like a small chunk of the pages at a time and kind of help them through the coil. That way I'm not putting a lot of stress by grabbing a big old chunk and just letting it kind of follow its own way through the coil binding. I don't know that it would tear, but just to be careful, I'm just being ginger with it because I want it to last and I want it to, survive. So I'm just careful as I go through, and that just might kind of help you guys extend the life of those pages. They are not reinforced, so sometimes you'll see things have like little stickers around the holes. These are not reinforced that way. They are just punched, and so you just have to be careful. But I haven't had any problems yet. Okay, margins. Let's talk about margin space. So these do have twice the space of a standard journaling Bible. All journaling Bibles are slightly different, but for the most part, it is twice the space. And looking at this on camera, you're kind of like, okay, yeah, that looks like a lot of space. You guys, it's amazing. Shauna keeps saying game changer. It is game changer. So you'll see here, this is a regular journaling Bible for me. It's a little less than 2 inches, and this is a little less than 4 inches. Sorry, I've got puppy furs. I've got the fan going. It's hot, and this is a long video. I knew I wouldn't survive, 45 minutes without the fan on. Sorry, guys. So a little less than 2 inches, and this is a little less than 4 inches. So you can just see how much more space that is. And also, the pages are taller, so there's a lot more space, and not lined. So you can see there's some faint lines in this journaling Bible. This journaling Bible is not lined. The lines have never really bothered me. I like them for when I'm taking notes and things. That way I can make sure things are straight or line up die cuts and things like that. But it is nice not to have to conflict with the lines. One little hack that I did is I have one of these clear T rulers. I will have everything linked down below and over on my blog. I actually had my husband chop off the end of it and file it down smooth for me so that it would fit in this Bible. So I have it cut down to just over 8.5. It's probably about 8 3/4 inches is probably where the line was, 22 centimeters. And that way it will fit like a T ruler against the edge of the page and it's not bumping into the coil. And then now I can pencil in lines or use this to make sure that my journaling is straight or something is lined up. So that was kind of a hack that I did to work with this. But of course, I mean, you're free to do whatever you want in your journaling Bible. If you want it all crooked, you do you. So you do have all of that space. Now this, when you're working in like Psalms and Proverbs and those types of books, you have even more space. So you have about 6 inches. In some places you have between 5 3/4 and 6 3/4 inches worth of space in this margin. I mean, this is massive. And then this is also, I believe it's 9 1/4 or 9 3/4 inches tall. I have another ruler right here. 9 1/4 inches tall. So when you think about a 6x8 paper pad, let me grab a 6x8 paper pad so you can just see how that fits in there. So this is the Gratitude Documented paper pad. I want to show you, this is 6 inches by 8 inches. That fits. I'm losing one little word right there. But you can see you can fit almost an entire 6x8 piece of paper and still have room on the top and the bottom. So these margins are massive. It is amazing. I will say, for those of you who've been journaling for a while, you may kind of feel the same way as I do. You kind of develop a system or a formula for your pages, where you like your clusters, where you like your title, where you like your tabs. This Bible has completely changed that for me. So I'm kind of having to like relearn Bible journaling almost, just because the space is just different. And so from a design standpoint, which has nothing to do with studying the Bible, but from a design standpoint, it is just different to create in. And I love the challenge. I love that I get to change things up. I've been journaling for 3 years now, and so it's kind of nice to just have a fresh new way to create pages. So let's go ahead and take a look at, I'll show you this. Okay, so for titles of books. So titles of books are vertical. This is a good example. Are vertical within the margin. So for me, I really would rather have had it at the top of the page and not have taken up real estate in the margin. However, I can understand that if they had done that, it would have made this Bible even larger because it would have taken up more space within the text. So I get the reasoning for doing this. It cut down some of the size of the Bible, and you could really incorporate these titles into your artwork. You've got this big chunk of space that you can still journal in, and you could do a really pretty, floral bouquet around it, or an ombre background, or there's a lot of ways that you could incorporate the title into your margin space, but I just did want to point out that those are in the margin as opposed to at the top. Another thing that I noticed, and for me just kind of took some getting used to, is it is single column, and the way that the verse addresses are, so you'll see right here, this is in 1 John chapter 2. You can see the chapter numbers are pretty small. They are bold print, but they're not your typical, really large ones like in some of the other Bibles. But for this right here, where there's verse 3 and verse 4, instead of having verse 4, the number 4, actually within the line of text, they're over here on the side. So if you were to take this to a Bible study or a class or something like that, and they ask, will somebody read 1 John chapter 2, verse 4, and you go and you're going to read that verse, you do kind of have to scan through the line and figure out where verse 4 starts. And it's usually at the end of the period that's within the sentence is where the verse 4 starts. So just so you're aware of that being different, I don't think that it's a bad thing. It's just different from, a lot of our other journaling Bibles. So, and like I said, this isn't really meant to be study Bible per se. You'll notice there aren't any like extra notes at the bottom, study notes or footnotes or things like that. It really is just lines of text. And when you read, if you were to go back and read the original manuscripts, they didn't have verse numbers in the original manuscripts. That's something we've developed over time. So it's not like it's changing biblical text or anything like that. It's just the style of how it's written. But it is just basically the text and the Word of God, and that's it. No fancy frills when it comes to that. But you'll see you have some extra little places kind of in and around here. The font is 8-point font. I know some people are going to be asking about large print. They don't have any plans, as far as I know, anytime soon to do large print. When you feel and see how big this Bible is, large print would be massive. You would need a wagon to carry it around. So 8-point font is a little tiny. I understand that. Like I said, I'm not sitting here reading from this Bible for hours and hours. I understand that for some people you only have one Bible, and I get that. But, you know, it is 8-point font, and it is sans serif versus a serif font. So my Crossway Bible is a serif font, if you understand fonts and know what that means. And so it is, I have found, is the same size of text, but it is a little bit easier to read in the style of font that it is. So I don't have a problem, you know, reading the text at all. Okay, so let's talk about bleed through and all that, because I know that's what you guys are waiting for. So in the back, which again, because this was created for Bible journalers, I love that she did this. Typically in the back of our Bibles, this is where the maps are, or the measurements and all that extra junk that nobody actually uses. Maps we use, but the measurements and stuff we don't usually use. So I always tell you, test products in the back of your Bible. Shauna went ahead and included 2 full blank pages back here, so you can test to your heart's content and know if things are going to bleed through before you use it in the Bible. And I will tell you, these pages are thicker, and so I have found some products that typically bleed through in my Bible don't bleed through in here, but there are some things that do still bleed through, and that's just how it is. So I went ahead and I had checked with you guys on Instagram and asked what are some products that you want to be, you know, see in here. I pulled out so much stuff from my stash, it was ridiculous. I even went and bought products that I knew were going to bleed through, but knew you guys were going to ask about, and tested them in here. I know some of you are going to ask, okay, what about this product or what about that product? I am not testing anything else out at this point unless I go and purchase it down the road. I've tested everything that I have in my stash and that I like to work with. And then things that I knew weren't going to bleed through, like pigment inks or acrylic paints, I didn't test because I know they're not going to bleed through. They don't bleed through in my other Bible. They're not going to bleed through in here. So for the sake of the video, I just tested some of the things that people are always, you know, I always see it online where, you know, stays on ink. Stays on doesn't bleed in my Bible. Stays on bleeds in my Bible. So some of those kind of products like that. So one kind of nice thing I'll show you about the coil bind is that you can flip this around so that it's carefully all together like this, and you can work on it like this or take photos this way or whatever. So I do like that you can do that. So okay, so let's talk about what I tested. This is an unprepped page. I have not used gesso in this Bible, and I have no plans to use gesso in this Bible anytime soon. So unprepped. Stays on ink, VersaFine ink, Gina K amalgam ink. That is a dye-based ink. Dye inks, if we know anything, will bleed through Bible pages. Memento Tuxedo Black, Archival from Ranger, Distress Oxide, regular Distress ink. Again, I will have photos on my blog and everything linked down below. I'm not going to show those products in the video. I'm just going to list them out here. Faber-Castell brush markers, Colorbox chalk inks, Creative Retreat chalk inks, Jane Davenport mermaid markers, Arteza brush markers, Neocolor 2 crayons, Distress Oxide wet. What I did is I smushed the pigment out and added some water and then painted with it like watercolor. Inktense pencils that have been activated with water. Heidi Swap Color Shine. If those of you have Heidi Swap Color Shine and tried it in your Bible, you know this stuff bleeds, and it bleeds through like tons of pages if you're not careful. So I was really curious to see how this played in here. For pens, I tried the Illustrated Faith pen, Faber-Castell Pitt pen, Micron, Tombow Feud calligraphy pen, Scrapbook.com Slick Writer, Faber-Castell metallic pen, Ranger metallic marker, and then some heat embossing. This is an embossed technique down here. So I will have, like I said, photos over on my blog if you want to see those products. I heat set this entire page, and then I went in with a wet paintbrush and wet the left hand side of each one of these swatches, because sometimes I found something looks like it's not going to bleed through, and then once that page gets wet, that pigment does end up bleeding through. So I wanted to see, you know, how some of those products fared. So you'll know I use VersaFine Onyx Black ink all the time in my Bible. That's one of my favorites, but I kind of anticipated everything else bleeding through except for brush markers, but these will bleed through if you're heavy-handed. So I went ahead, this is 4 layers of brush marker. I went over it 4 times, and typically that'll bleed through in regular Bible. I know mermaid markers bleed. Neocolor 2 crayons don't usually bleed, but I tried a dark color, really saturated, to see if I could get it to bleed through. Inktense pencils don't usually bleed through, but again, I really scribbled that pigment on there and wet it to see if I could get it to bleed through. So I will have a photo of the back side of this over on my blog so you can use that for reference. But what you can see is there's a lot of shadowing, and a few products definitely bled through, but I was really impressed with how the page handled some of those tougher products. So this is StazOn ink up here. It is starting to bleed through. And I imagine if you had a new ink pad and were stamping quite a bit, it would bleed through. VersaFine Onyx Black ink. This is not bleed through. This is definitely shadow. And one thing I've noticed about this Bible, and I think it's because the pages are white, the shadowing is a little bit noticeable because that contrast of the black on white is so much higher than it is on black on cream. So this isn't bleed through, but it is shadowing, and you can cover that up, and usually that kind of isn't as noticeable once you create on the back side. But what you are thinking is bleed through, this is not actually bleed through. There's not pigment coming through. And the StazOn swatch is a good example of that. So you can see those little speckles, that is bleed through. That's where the pigment's coming through. But up here, this is shadowing. So that's where you can kind of see that difference. Gina K Amalgam ink. Now this ink did not bleed through when I stamped with it. I'll show you a page that I did with a process where it did bleed through. So just keep in mind, even, you know, when you test things back here, sometimes when you get in there and get an extra juicy ink pad or an extra juicy pen or something like that, it will kind of behave differently and you may have bleed through. Memento bled through. Archival inks started to bleed through. Not too terribly bad. Distress Oxide inks. Distress Oxide inks only bled through where I got it wet. So when I just stamped with it, it didn't bleed through. So that is amazing because I love Distress inks. They are, the oxides are a dye pigment mixture, and then regular Distress inks are a dye-based ink. So typically we can't use dye-based inks because they bleed. Distress ink didn't bleed through, so I'm very excited. And I tried to use newer ink pads and darker colors. You can see this Faber-Castell brush marker. A little bit is coming through, but like I said, I added like 4 or 5 layers of marker, so I'm very impressed with that. Colorbox chalk ink didn't bleed. Creative Retreat ink is still bleeding through. Mermaid markers and the Arteza brush markers, those bled through like crazy when it got wet. Not so bad when it was dry, but once it got wet, it did come through. So if you're not going to add water to your Bible, you may be able to get away with using some of these other products, but I would worry about it getting wet and then bleeding through. Distress Oxide wet, painting with it like watercolor, did not bleed through. Inktense is shadowing pretty heavily but not coming through. Heidi Swap Color Shine, look how amazing this is. It is not bleeding through. I am so excited about that. Now of course that may be different based off of what colors you use and things like that, but it did not bleed through. The only pen over here that came through is the scrapbook.com Slick Writer, which I've had bleed through with in the past, and it's only coming through in the areas where like my letters end and I kind of hold the pen there for a second is where it's bleeding through. But you can see pretty awesome how well this paper held up to abuse. Now, this page over here are some of the things that you guys suggested and wanted to see, and were products that I didn't necessarily have. Some of them I had, but like Zig Clean Color Real Brush Markers, I knew those were going to bleed. I had never wanted to invest my money in them because of that, but I went out and bought some, and I'm glad I only bought 6 because this bled through like crazy. So Zig Clean Color Real Brush Markers, Illustrated Faith Acrylics, Distress paints. These are awesome. I had never used these before really. I will be getting some more of these because the colors are beautiful. This is a acrylic paint. Tombow dual brush marker. I've seen some people saying Tombows don't bleed in my Bible, and then others say Tombows do bleed. So I went and bought a Tombow pen and checked it out. Sharpie highlighter. Some people are asking about highlighters. VersaFine Clair, these are the new VersaFine inks, and I found these behave a little bit differently than the regular VersaFine, so I tested that. For pens, Papermate Flare. Everybody loves these, and I had not kind of got on the bandwagon. I bought some, and I don't love them. You can see when it got wet, it bled on this side and it bled on the back side, so I tried a dark color and a light color. Arteza fine liners, Uniball Signo. That's actually this pen here. I love using this for note-taking in journals and things like that. It's not meant to be waterproof or anything like that. I was just curious to see about bleed through. Veritas gel pens. I've had issues with those bleeding through before. Here again is just writing with the Tombow dual brush pen, and then the Creative Devotion markers from American Craft. I did try those. So, and again, I did heat set this and then activated the left side with water, and I was surprised by the things that bled on this side. You know, those Tombow pens, you know, bled and made a mess. The paper mates bled and made a mess. And then on the back side here, you'll see the Zig Clean Color Real Brush markers would have bled through like 20 pages. I had pigment actually puddled and sitting on the page underneath that I had stuck underneath there because that bled so much. Tombows did not bleed when they were just dry applied, but once water was applied, it did bleed through. Same thing for the Sharpie marker. That Versifying Claire is bleeding through. Acrylic paints, of course, are fine. Those aren't going to bleed. The Paper Mate did not bleed through when you're just writing with them, but once water is applied. And when I say water is applied, let's say you wrote with those and then you went to the back of that page and journaled with watercolors. That water getting through that page will reactivate what's on the other side of the page. So this did come through. The Uniball Signo did pretty good. It didn't bleed through. The gel pen did not bleed through, but it did kind of fuzzy out when it got wet because it's not waterproof. Again, the Tombow. Those Creative Devotion markers, I'm really impressed. It did not bleed through wet or dry. So you can see I tested a lot. I know it's not everything. I know you guys are going to ask about other stuff, but I did a lot, guys. And my hubby has told me no more craft store shopping because I was buying all kinds of things to test in this Bible. So let's take a look at just kind of how it looks when you're journaling in this Bible and what my plans are for this Bible. So here in the front is a big blank open page, and I will admit when I first got this Bible, you'll know my other Bibles I don't ever spend any more than $30 on, and so I am hard on them. Pages get torn, things get stapled, I mean, bleed through happens. I'm rough on it. And it's okay because for less than $30 I can go and buy a new Bible. This one being at that higher price point, I was a little nervous about ruining it or something happening to it. Right out the get-go, I made a huge mistake, and it made me feel much more comfortable about working in this Bible. So I did this Watercolor Galaxy. I do have a tutorial on my channel. I will link it down below. And I actually turned my tutorial on and followed my tutorial as I recreated this. Of course, you can't really see it because I had to cover it up, but I did follow that tutorial, so that'll be linked down below. This is Illustrated Faith watercolors, and I chose those because I have had in the past, when I start applying really heavy amounts of that paint, I can get bleed through sometimes. So this, I put this to the test. So what this is 5 layers of paint and water. I applied a layer of water, layer of paint, dried it. Layer of water, layer of paint, dried it. 5 times to see how hard I could work this paper, how wrinkly it got, if it started to break down and things like that. This down here is Kiritaki Gansai Tombi watercolors. Very, very, very thick. I wanted to see if it shadowed or what it looked like. Again, I will have photos of each one of these pages with the product links over on my blog if you're wondering about products I mentioned. Now, I went in and hand lettered in the beginning and left out an I, and I couldn't fix it. So I did have to go ahead and cover that up. I was super bummed about that, but you know, it happens, guys. It happens, and it's okay. So let's take a look at the back side here. I am very impressed. So you will see that there is a little bit of bleed through. I kind of think this is where I overworked the page trying to get some colors to blend, but again, that was 5 times that I wet this and dried it and applied massive, I mean, I had puddles of paint on this page, and this is all that came through. So if you're just using it on a normal basis, this page is really going to hold up well. You can see no bleed through from the Kiritaki Gansai, and as far as wrinkling, this page behaved very differently. So initially when it got wet, I got a little worried because it was like wavy and wrinkly and was just acting different than some of my other Bibles, but I dried it, let it sit out for about an hour, and it completely relaxed and flattened pretty much on its own. And then once my Bible was closed, you can see it's almost 100% flat. There is some texture, just, I mean, because there was water on it, and you can hear it's crinkly, but I was very impressed with how flat it got. I think it gets flatter and smoother than it does in a regular journaling Bible. So those of you concerned about using wet products in here, don't be, it's awesome. And here's where you can kind of hear the thickness of this paper. It's awesome. Okay, here's a little reason why I love the coil binding. So for me as a YouTuber, I take notes on my stuff when I'm doing my editing. And so I'd taken some notes and I thought, oh, I wonder if I can insert things into the coil binding. I've seen that DaySpring and Illustrated Faith are coming out with some products very soon, specifically for this Bible, as far as like bookmarks and habit trackers and pocket inserts and things like that snap into the coil, and I think that's great, and I think we're going to see some awesome products come out to go along with this Bible. And so what I did is I used the We Are Memory Keepers punch board. I will have a video very soon showing how I did this, and the hole punch that you can get for it. I just punched some holes into some notebook paper, and so for me this gives me a place to take notes, but for you guys this is awesome. So for those of you who are like me and take notes during sermons, and I'm scribbling notes in my announcement bulletin or on scrap pieces of paper or a random envelope, now I have a way to come back to my Bible and I can create and be colorful and have fun in the margin, and then I can take my notes on a separate piece of paper and insert them into the center coil binding here, and so then I can have kind of two separate spaces, and if I need to take this out and adjust it or change it or add more notes to it, I can take things out and put it back in and adjust it and that kind of thing, rather than just depending upon the space that I have here. So I love this. It'll be a Tip Tuesday very soon. I'll be showing you how I did these punches to get this to work in there, but I am excited. I see a lot of people marketing on this idea and creating some things that will pop into the center of this Bible for sure. Okay, this is my favorite page, and I'll tell you why. When we're talking about the price point and it being $99, I know that sounds like a lot of money, and it is a lot of money. I'm looking at this Bible as a legacy Bible and something I'm going to pass down, and so my intention with this is to document my family and my prayers for my family and the different seasons we go through. And yes, some of you might be looking at this and saying, Lindsey, you're turning your Bible into a scrapbook. Yes, I'm turning my Bible into a scrapbook. You can see with all that margin space, I'm not covering the text, so I have plenty of room to work and not worry about covering Bible text. And now generations down the road, if they want to come through and see photos of my family, it's right here next to the Word of God. I mean, how much more wonderful can that be, that to see pictures of us, they're going to come in here and they can't ignore the Word of God. It's right here next to these photos and prayers and things that I've got in here as you journal. And I think it's so important to journal prayers for your family and your friends and your loved ones. And like I said, as far as gift giving for a baby, baby shower or a Christmas gift for somebody, I just think this is really going to change the game as far as what we do with our Bible journaling. I first and foremost think it's very important to have a relationship with God, you and Him, and you interacting with Him on the pages of this Bible, but take it one step further and include and bring in other outsiders into what you document in here, and I think it's wonderful. So I'm always inspired by card making and scrapbookers and things like that, but it's always kind of hard to translate into Bible journaling. But now with all this extra space, we can do some of those fun techniques that we've seen in the scrapbooking community. So you can see here I used a cut file. I will use this cut file. I created it. I'll have it for free over on my blog that you can download, this white outline of love, and then I backed it with some of the You Are Loved pattern papers from Illustrated Faith and DaySpring, and I love this big bold title that now is a very large piece. We're not working with little 2-inch pieces anymore. This here is a 3-inch by 3-inch photo, so pretty good sized. Before I was inserting photos into my Bible, I'd either have to cover text or have them very, very small. 3-inch by 3-inch is a pretty good sized photo. And then I've gone ahead and created this as a tip-in. So I have an area to journal an intimate prayer for my husband and for my marriage. So as you're flipping through my Bible, you're looking through it, it's pretty, you can see things, but then I have these, little private spots in here as well. The background is gelatos smushed down, so I wet the page and then smushed gelatos on there just to kind of see how some of those favorite techniques of mine work on this particular paper. This is stamped with VersaFine Onyx Black ink, and then I use some ephemera pieces from the You Are Loved collection. Again, everything will be linked over on my blog and down below. No bleed through. So that was the Faber-Castell Pitt pen. Sometimes when I go around pieces with my pen multiple times, it will bleed through. I went around this about 4 times and it did not bleed through. So I'm very, very happy with that. This will be very easy to work on the back of the page. And I love it. So you will be seeing a lot more kind of this style of journaling and documenting from me. And I hope to kind of bring in some different products that we haven't seen in Bible journaling. And I imagine that Bible journaling companies are going to come out with some different products now that we have these bigger spaces. I keep thinking about those big, bold title starter clear stickers from Illustrated Faith. I'll link those down below. They're very large and they would cover the text. Now those will fit in the margin, no problem. Okay, moving on. You guys are hanging with me. We're doing pretty good here. But I did want to kind of live in this Bible and let you see how I'm using it. I know people are going to ask, well, Lindsey, are we only going to see this Bible from here on out? You're going to see a lot of this Bible because I love it, and I journal for me and because I love it, and I love this Bible. So yes, you are going to see a lot of me journaling in this Bible now. You can take a lot of the techniques I do and translate them into a smaller margin or a tip-in or something like that. I will still pop into my other journaling Bible occasionally because I understand that not everybody's going to rush out and buy this Bible, but I love this Bible, and I'm going to share some of those techniques in here. Here is an example of taking, this page was inspired by a page that I did in my 100 days of Bible promises. I'll put a photo right here of that page if I can. And I wanted to translate that into here. So you can see I have about 6 inches of space, and I used modeling or texture paste mixed in with some Distress Oxide inks, which sometimes will bleed through when you mix the Distress ink. I did some foiled stamping. I stamped with brush markers, some alpha stickers from Illustrated Faith. This is VersaFine Onyx Black ink, some journaling, just to kind of play and see, do some mixed media techniques and see how this page holds up to it. So on the back here, you'll see nothing really bled through. This is shadowing from the VersaFine black ink. It is not bleeding through, but it is, you know, pretty significant shadowing. But if I just add a die cut here or some pattern paper or something, you can see it's not super noticeable. It may even be more noticeable on the camera than it is in real life. But stamping with big brush markers was fine. Coloring in things several times was fine. So you can see these pages definitely are thicker and behave beautifully. All right, you know that I love me a ink smush background with some Distress inks, and so I had done those testings and saw that Distress inks were behaving pretty well in this Bible, and I wanted to put it to the test. So I sprayed the background of this page with plain water, and then I did 3 layers of Distress Oxide ink smushing technique in here, and then dried it. And then I also love that we can use these big die cut pieces. So this is the All People, All Nations collection from Illustrated Faith and DaySpring, and there was these bigger die cuts, which I really loved, but you couldn't really use this in a regular Bible unless you covered the text or put it on a tip-in or broke it apart. So you can see here I have the entire globe, and don't call me out, I know that it's not to scale and I know that it's not completely accurate, but you can see you can have all of these pieces and no text is covered. I can read all of the text over here in the margin. I was able to create this big large title and still have a huge chunk of room to journal, and I write pretty big and loopy, and I was able to get probably even more journaling than I would in my regular journaling Bible. So let's take a look at the back here. So there is some bleed through kind of happening right here from those Distress Oxide inks, but let me show you an example of the exact same technique in this Bible so you can understand how much better it is in this new Bible. So this is the same technique. So this is ink smushing with Distress Oxide inks. This is actually only 2 layers, maybe 3 layers, and you can see how significant the bleed through. Of course, this is slightly different colors, so each color is going to behave a little bit differently, but even that yellow, which is a light color, is coming through quite a bit. And you can see here, very, very minimal, very easy to cover up. Again, not prepped, no gesso, nothing, and only a little bit of bleed through right here. So I am obsessed with that. I'm so excited I get to use my Distress inks and Distress Oxide inks and not, you know, have anybody fretting about bleed through anymore. Again, just kind of showing you the different ways that you can journal within this Bible as far as design standpoint goes. You know, you've got room that you can kind of break things up and do things different. Again, this was a piece inspired by a card. I'd had the card pinned for 2 years now. I've been trying to incorporate it into a Bible journaling entry because I loved this kind of scallop fish scale paper pieced look, but it's not very impactful when it's only 1 inch wide in a regular Bible. So here, this piece is pretty good size, about 3 3/4 inches wide. Pieced it together, used some of those bigger die cuts from Illustrated Faith's Fruit of the Spirit collection. There's some Distress Oxide ink blended in the background, some alpha stickers, and I love that I could break up the titles. You can see here I have Be a Peach, Not a Lemon, kind of broken up and separated. I love that you can kind of create these visual areas that are very different from a regular Bible. And then this flips up and I've got a journaling spot underneath. So love all that space. Again, you know, I went over words multiple times with pen, shadowing but no bleed through. No bleed through from dusting on the Distress ink. This is the Illustrated Faith colored pens, no bleed through there. So even my stamping with VersaFine Onyx Black ink usually will bleed through, and that did not bleed through. So Is it the same as working on watercolor paper? No. Is it the same as working on cardstock? No, it is not that thick, but it is definitely thicker than regular Bible journaling paper. Now here's where some bleed through happened. And some text got covered. So, sorry about that. Here I'm using the Houses Basic Stamp Set from Illustrated Faith and DaySpring, and I stamped using the Gina K dye inks. I figured these were gonna bleed through, but I thought I would try it because these are beautiful. I love these colors. It's really great formula, but it is a dye ink. So I went stamp happy with stamping like crazy with some pretty dark colors. I had intended on stamping all in the margin, but I flipped it over to look, and yeah, sure enough, this is bleeding through. But again, it's a dye ink. I mean, dye ink will even bleed through cardstock sometimes, so I'm not too worried about that. But I can just cover this up with a die cut or something like that. But I know now can't use those. Big bold title, yes, it's coming into the text a little bit, but you've got plenty of space if you didn't want to do that. You know, you can still use quite a few products. I just had this in my stash for a while and wanted to use it. You can see I've got half of it with my title and artwork, and then I've still got plenty of room to journal out a prayer and all of that goodness. So I love having all that space to not just create artistically, but to get my notes down and stuff like that too. So that is all that I have created so far. No, there are no process videos for those, but I will do process videos with similar techniques coming up. Check out the description box down below for links to everything that I mentioned. Head on over to the blog if you want details on each page and information about that. Again, check out the pre-sale link down below if you want to get your hands on this Bible. Guys, I'm obsessed. I've seen that hundreds of you have already, if not thousands, have already pre-ordered this from other places, and it's coming, and you guys are going to love it. So if you have any questions or comments, be sure to leave those down below. I'll jump down there and kind of chit chat with you guys about the Bible. I'm excited to see you guys start getting it and working in it. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed the review. Subscribe to my channel if you're not already subscribed. Be sure to click on the bell notification button so that you don't miss any future videos that I'm putting out, as I'm going to be kind of focusing on this Bible over the next few weeks and working in it and showing you, some tips and tricks and things along the way. So that is it. Thanks for hanging with me, guys. I'm going to go finish my coffee. It was nice to kind of just sit with you guys and have a longer video. So until next time, thank you so much. Bye-bye.